Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Inshallah, we will continue covering the fascinating topic of the prophecies which we find in the Holy Quran and which are explained by Hazrat Ibn Si Rabi Rahimahullah in his groundbreaking book, Revelation, Rationality, Knowledge, and Truth. And this today we'll be covering pages 597 to 602, which is under the chapter Unveiling of the Unseen by the Quran, a Historic Perspective. Hazur says that returning to Surah Al-Takwir, from which we digressed for a while, let us now take up verse 9, which follows. This verse, as well as the next, describe the same age to which all previous verses refer to from different angles. وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنبٍ قُتِلَتْ. So in Surah Takwir 9 to 10, translation is, and when the girl child buried alive is questioned about, for what offense has she been put to death? In their ignorance, some Arabs felt extremely insulted when a daughter was born to them, and out of shame might even bury her alive. Society has no right to interfere in such matters as though the fathers owned their children like property. That age would be the age of the strict rule of law, is the evident message. This message, however, is delivered particularly with reference to the rights of women. Otherwise, a simple statement concerning law and order could as well have been made. In the light of this, one simply cannot fail to register this significance. No longer will men be able to trifle with the rights of women, is the powerful import of this verse. Never in any age did the rights of women acquire such importance as in contemporary times. All the features of the latter days which the verses of this Quranic surah develop systematically with a progressive sequence carry the subject forward from one feature to another like the brush of a master painter. The scientific development, which is throughout implied, is continuously interwoven with the political and social aspects. In verse 8, the bonding together of man is predicted in more than one way. The same subject is taken up again in verse 11 after the mention of social and political developments. The idea is introduced with reference to the most powerful means of joining together people, which is through wider extensive publication of literature, newspapers, magazines, etc. All the modes of transport referred to above have played their part in uniting the people of the world, but the role of the press can never be overshadowed or replaced by any other measure of uniting man. Take the role of the wide distribution of printed literature away from this age, and mankind, despite the distances being reduced, will suddenly appear to fall apart once again. The people will become disjointed and isolated from each other. It was this modern state of the news, media, and the extensive publication of literature which is mentioned in the verse under discussion. وَإِذَا الصُّحُفُ نُشِرَتْ, and when the books will be extensively published and spread. Also implied in this prophecy is the invention of the modern press. Otherwise, it would not be possible for handwritten manuscripts to be extensively published and widely distributed. An age of large-scale publication is also bound to be an age of intense proliferation of knowledge, research, and investigation. The Holy Quran emphasizes the role of the pen so powerfully that it directly attributes to God the act of teaching humans how to write. So here, just going over this again, that we did cover in the last class about the fact that man would be brought together, and the transportation modes of new transportation definitely have brought this to happen, and the political situation as well. But here Hazur is focusing on the printed press, the news media, in particular here to bind people together. So we have the the computer age, we have the technology, we have the ability to send books through the internet via PDF files, and knowledge being spread through the internet. And this is a means for which this written form of knowledge and information is being spread and bringing people together. And this is definitely the age, and even now, it's become so much common, this news, that people are taking on themselves because of social media to do their own blogs and do their own commentaries and explain things from their perspective, that channels and so many channels have and news channels have come up, and modes of media to get their own perspective out, that it's become quite a controversial subject even to talk about, the press even nowadays, that the President Trump made it popular, the popular saying of fake news. The Huzur says that, continuing, that the following verses, which are taken from Surah Al-Alaq, the very first chapter revealed to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, emphatically pronounce, Iqra wa rabbuka al-akramu alladhi allama bil qalami allama al-insana ma lam ya'lam. The translation is read. Read, and your Lord is the most honorable, who taught by the pen. He taught man what he knew not. These verses, when read in conjunction, when read in conjunction with the verse under study, clearly emphasize the character of the age as highly advanced in knowledge. During that age, the spread of educational institutions such as schools, colleges, and universities also seem to be implied. The very first verse, which makes the opening statement, introduces God as most honorable because he has taught with the pen. It is obviously implied that the pen will be the source of all knowledge. Excuse me. It is obviously implied that the pen will be the source of all knowledge, and knowledge would be the source of all greatness and honor. Incidentally, one should not forget that these revelations were vouched to one who himself had never learned to hold a pen in his hand. It was the pen of God which authored the Quran, and not the pen of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Another implication of the verse is that knowledge would become the means of gaining power, and the pen shall emerge as a mightier than the sword. The next verse, advancing the same theme, further pronounces that the sky will be the limit of man's knowledge. وَإِذَا السَّمَاءُ كُشِطَتْ. And when the heavens will be peeled off or laid bare. This verse presents a tragic comparison between the state of Islam in that age and the rise of the worldly Christian powers, when the light of the sun of Islam will be wrapped up and the stars of the Muslim heaven will cease to shed light. The non-Muslim materialistic world will begin to scale the heavenly heights to learn the secrets of space. This scenario brings to mind some other verses of the Holy Quran which also predict an era of space and air travel. The following are the relevant verses. وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْحُبُّكِ. And by the heaven full of tracks. وَالْمُرْسَلَاتِ عُرْفًا فَالْعَاصِفَاتِ عَصْفًا وَالنَّاشِرَاتِ نَشْرًا فَالْفَارِقَاتِ فَرْقًا. And by those who are sent forth with specific tasks, and by those who move like the moving of fast winds, and by those who propagate a goodly propagation, and by those who distinguish and discriminate between friends and foes. These are many other similar verses repeatedly drawn the picture of a sky which is extensively used for air travel. It is chartered into tracks. Messengers fly to and fro. Airborne propaganda is carried out extensively, and it has become sorry, I just want to have the correct slide here. It is charted into tracks. Messengers fly to and fro. Airborne propaganda is carried out extensively, and it has become possible at last for man to fly on the wings of air. Having fulfilled his dream to fly, man would begin to entertain loftier ambitions. He would begin to discern the secrets of the heavens and the heavenly bodies. He would peel off the covers which enwrap them to unveil their mysteries. He would set space stations and posts to watch and monitor what passes in the heavens above him. The following verse clearly illustrates this phase of human advancement in science and technology, which would make it literally possible for him to probe into the vast expanse of the universe. لا يسمعون إلى الملأ الأعلى ويقذفون من كل جانب دحورا ولهم عذاب مسيب. This is chapter 37, verses 9 to 10. However much they strain their ears to eavesdrop on whatever passes in the lofty celestial chambers, they will not be able to do without being peeled from all sides. Repulsed, and for them will be a perpetual punishment. Concerning the ambitions of man to conquer space physically to its very limits, the following is the challenge which the Quran throws to all who seek the conquest of space, be they high or low. Before we quote the relevant verse, it is essential to clarify the nature of its address. So inshallah, we'll just end here. Huzur is explaining. I'm not going to go further today. We'll do that in next class, but Hazur here says before he goes into the next verse, which he's going to quote, and then take the subject on further about the space travel. He says that it is essential to clarify the nature of its address. The translation, the company of the jinn and the company of the men, does not do full justice to the message implied. The jinn does not indicate here a ghost-like existence different from humans. Instead, as also mentioned earlier, it is frequently employed to indicate big people as against the common people who are referred to as An-Nas. Hence, the true import of this address would perhaps be better understood if it were translated as O company of the capitalist powers and O company of the proletariat. Inshallah, we'll pick this up and go into it further in the next class. Jazakumullah for everyone for joining. May Allah bless you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.